In a quaint village nestled between rolling hills and lush forests, there lived a young man named Arik. He was a simple soul, earning his living by growing and selling vegetables at the local market. Arik's life was humble, residing alone in a small cottage near his fields. Every day, he toiled under the sun, nurturing his crops, and every evening, he went to bed exhausted, yet satisfied. His daily routine was his lifeline, and the thriving vegetables were his only source of income. One morning, Arik awoke to a troubling sight. Several vegetables were missing from his fields. Puzzled and worried, he shrugged it off as a one-time occurrence. But the following morning, more vegetables had disappeared. Day by day, his produce dwindled, and Arik grew increasingly anxious. His hard work was vanishing before his eyes, and he couldn't fathom why. Determined to uncover the mystery, Arik decided to stay the night near his field. As the sun set and darkness enveloped the village, he lay under the vast sky, the stars twinkling above. The beauty of the night sky often filled Arik with a longing for companionship, someone to share his life with. Lost in these wistful thoughts, he eventually drifted off to sleep. When he woke at dawn, the scene was all too familiar. More vegetables were gone. Frustration gnawed at him, but he resolved to stay awake the next night. This time, he was prepared to catch the culprit. The following night, Arik positioned himself in a hidden spot near his field, his eyes wide open and senses alert. Midnight approached, and the stillness of the night was broken by a faint rustling in the bushes. Arik held his breath, peering intently into the darkness. His heart raced as he saw tiny, human-like creatures with delicate wings, no larger than his hand, flitting towards his vegetable patch. These diminutive beings were plucking his vegetables with nimble fingers, their movements quick and efficient. Arik was both amazed and terrified. He had heard tales of mythical creatures, but had never believed them. Unsure of how to react, he watched in silent astonishment until they vanished into the forest. The next day, Arik could think of nothing else. Who were these creatures? Why were they stealing his vegetables? That night, he devised a plan. Using a fine mosquito net, he crafted a trap. The night was eerily quiet, and Arik's patience was tested. Then, just past midnight, the creatures returned. As they began to pluck the vegetables, they were ensnared in the net. Tiny cries of alarm filled the air as Arik hurried to secure them. He brought the net, with the trapped creatures inside, into his cottage. To his surprise, the creatures could speak. They pleaded for their release, their voices high-pitched and melodious. "Please let us go," they implored. "We mean no harm." Arik, though wary, was curious. "Why did you steal my vegetables? They are my only source of income." One of the creatures, slightly larger than the others, stepped forward. "We are the Sylphs of the forest. Our home and the jungles around us are being destroyed by humans. With nowhere else to go and no food left, we had no choice but to take from your fields." Arik's anger melted into sympathy. He saw the desperation in their eyes and understood their plight. "I will release you," he said, "but I cannot afford to lose more of my vegetables." The Sylph leader nodded. "We are grateful for your understanding. To show our gratitude, we offer you this." He handed Arik a small pouch filled with a shimmering powder. "This is a magical ingredient. Sprinkle it on your fields, and your crops will flourish beyond imagination. You will have enough to sustain both you and us." Arik hesitated, but sensed the sincerity in the Sylph's voice. He released them and watched as they disappeared into the night. The next morning, he sprinkled the powder across his fields, hoping for the best. Days passed, and to Arik's astonishment, his crops grew at an incredible rate. The vegetables were larger, healthier, and more abundant than ever before. His trips to the market became joyous occasions, with people marveling at the quality of his produce. Word spread, and soon, Arik was known far and wide for his extraordinary vegetables. True to his word, Arik set aside a portion of his harvest for the Sylphs. Every night, they visited his field, taking what they needed. In return, they protected his crops from pests and harsh weather. A symbiotic relationship blossomed, and Arik found solace in knowing he was not alone. One night, as Arik lay under the stars, the Sylph leader visited him again. "You have been kind and generous," he said. "We wish to give you something more." With a wave of his hand, he conjured a shimmering light that enveloped Arik. "This will ensure your fields remain fertile and prosperous for as long as you live." Arik's heart swelled with gratitude. He thanked the Sylphs and watched as they danced away into the forest. From that day forward, his life changed for the better. He continued to grow and sell his vegetables, living comfortably and sharing his bounty with the Sylphs. Years passed, and Arik never forgot the magical beings who had saved him from despair. The villagers often wondered about his secret, but Arik kept it close to his heart, a beautiful mystery that ensured his happiness. And so, in the peaceful village by the forest, Arik lived out his days in contentment, his fields ever flourishing, and his heart forever grateful for the enchanted harvest that had brought joy and companionship into his life.